Welcome to the 67th episode of the Bullpen Show. I'm your host, Austin Alexander, and today, very fortunate to be joined by the president, the CEO, the founder of Pencil Talk, Jack Delongchamps. Jack, how are you today, sir?
Honored to be on. We're not going to let that slide without the very egregious and maybe beautiful nod to the 6-7 deal. I think that I'm the perfect guest for this episode because I was a 3-time self-proclaimed, of course, bullpen catcher of the year at the college level. Again, it was a made-up award that I created myself. So I do think that is somewhat paralleled to 6-7 and the craziness that's sweeping our nation right now. So very honored to be on, sir.
Man, I'm glad to have you here, Jack. And we got a ton to get to during this episode, and we're going to roll right through it. Just for folks who may or may not know who Jack is, Jack's actually an alum of Wando High School, came to Diamond Prospects events once upon a time. We'll certainly tackle that topic. Went to Charleston Southern out of high school, played baseball there before transferring to George Mason. And then basically in the last couple of years come to stardom through Pencil Talk. And so we'll just start right there, Jack. We'll talk about your baseball career, but let's talk about what puts you on the map and puts you in front of a lot of people's phones these days. Pencil Talk has gotten huge. I really enjoyed it throughout the college baseball season. Certainly gained even more momentum out in Omaha during the World Series. If you could tell us a little bit about what you do for a living, how it began, and some fun stories that come with Pencil Talk.
No, I appreciate the kind words. I think, CEO to CEO, right? When you are starting something brand new, it can be scary and you don't really know what it looks like at first, and the vision changes every day. So for me, Pencil Talk was actually something that I started in college. I joke about it when people ask for the origin story. It kind of started as a pseudo scam. I didn't know that I needed an internship to graduate from Charleston Southern. It's the spring semester. I've got 56 games upcoming in the Big South that I got to get ready for. And oh, by the way, in order to graduate, you need an internship. I go, well, I don't really have much time for that. So I was super blessed to actually work with the sports information department, helping put box scores together. And I go, hey, I've always wanted to toy around with the media world. Why don't I try my hand at some interviews? Really bad intern, always forgot the mics, but always had a pencil. It was just that simple. So it went from interviewing my coaches to my teammates, my good buddies, kind of documenting their highs and lows throughout a year. And it kind of resonated, I think, with folks who maybe would have never in a million years cared about Charleston Southern baseball, but it allowed you to feel like you were on the inside, that you were maybe sharing a seat with us on the bus on the way to a game, or a locker in the dugout. So from there, I go to George Mason, supposed to intern with the Washington Nationals. COVID shuts the program down. Now all of a sudden we're running it back. Pencil Talk becomes internship 2.0. Same kind of song and dance with my teammates up in the DC area. And when I get done playing, I think everybody that's probably been on this podcast to date and everyone that's listening at home, that the game ends one day. And, as a I self-deprecate quite a bit, but as a pretty below average college baseball player, the reason I stuck around as long as I did is because I just loved it. I cared. So when the game was over, I knew and it was ready to be over, but you still long and miss those relationships. So after taking a couple jobs down in the Charleston area, I missed it. I missed being around it. I moved out to Laramie, Wyoming, and helped run a summer collegiate baseball team where it allowed me to be GM, to be third base coach, to be chef, to be janitor. But also in that time, I got to toy around with some broadcasting things. So getting on the mic for the first time since I got done was this, wait, this is how I can still stay around the game and help tell these stories that I've always longed to listen to. So it was in that time where Pencil Talk became a vessel to not only practice, but also as a way to complement some of the broadcasting work that I was doing at the time. And the rest is kind of history. I moved back to South Carolina, started covering college baseball in the Charleston area that stretched into the ACC, into the Sun Belt, into the SEC, until I found myself living in my car covering the College World Series out in a paradise on earth, aka Omaha, Nebraska. So it's been a lot of fun, and really a lot of it in part to what your events helped provide to me, at 16, 17 years old, that allowed me to get into this crazy rat race of a college baseball world anyways.
You've done a tremendous job with it. And those of us from afar who've known you for a long time, known your family for a long time as well. It's been fun to watch your meteoric rise to fame, if you will. I'm sure as the followers have continued to grow, your demands have grown as well. Tell us, every time I, turn on my phone or was on social media, you were popping up all over the place. You were kind of like Forrest Gump, I guess, showed up where and you really were everywhere, covering everything with everybody. Give us some of the really, as this was becoming more and more popular, and people were starting to recognize this guy walking around with a pencil. Kind of tell us how that went from, me trying to, you trying to work your way into the business and being well accepted.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. By the way, I'm going to put that in my bio and on my resume. Forrest Gump is good. It's one of my favorite movies ever. So, I think for me, like going back to my alma mater, Charleston Southern, and getting broadcast games there, and then I'd go down onto the field and interview that player or that coach that had a huge impact in the broadcast that I was just a part of. That in college baseball felt very contagious, right? Like it's very accessible. So the ability to go from Charleston Southern to College Charleston to the Citadel to Coastal, now all of a sudden bigger doors start to open up. And then you're at Duke, and then you're at NC State. What I started to slowly realize was it's such an underserved market, right? Even these SEC and ACC juggernauts or programs that you think we joke about like fame and stardom, but in college baseball, it's cool because it's the people's sport. That doesn't exist. These are just dudes playing balls. I was allowed into rooms and I was trusted right out the gates by coaches like Jay Johnson, by coaches like Tony Vitello that, man, I looked up to. And now all of a sudden I'm sought after in a way to help tell their program stories that became, I don't want to say vulnerable, but like I was very honored. I was very honored to be in those rooms. And I think it happened fast just because I think college baseball people are just, they look after their own. It's a very tight and close community that I think we all know. And I think that's how it probably happened so fast. I think getting to call games was the dream, right? I wanted to be Vin Scully when I grew up. But then you realize it's probably more difficult to sit in that chair than it is to play shortstop for the LA Dodgers, right? Just because that guy's going to sit in that chair for 50 plus years. So then the vision and the dream changes. Okay, well, cool. If I can't tell stories necessarily in that dream chair, how do I do it in a way that I want? And then, social media in a scrolling clickbait world, my stuff didn't necessarily work right away. But more importantly, it resonated with the people that I wanted it to, which was college baseball folks. So yes, fame is maybe an overstated word. I still work 4 different jobs, so it doesn't necessarily feel it all the time, but it's been really cool and really blessed to be in those rooms, which is, I don't, that's a privilege, right? I definitely don't overlook that.
Well, in very short order, you became a very recognizable face around ballparks across the country. Like I said, it culminated in Omaha. Give us some of the challenges you're talking about, working odd jobs, still trying to get by. What are some of the challenges? Yeah, it's a big deal. It's very well received in the baseball world. But personally, what are some of the difficulties that you've experienced along the way, still in year 1, 2, 3, just getting this thing rolling?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Austin. I think, right, like Omaha's expensive. Like you go out there, man, it's a La Quinta Inn, $900 a night, and you're like, I don't really necessarily have that in I work on a jet ski and boat tourist, side hustle money, right, in order to allow the flexibility of trying to build a business, right? So going out to Omaha for the first time, I actually took my 2016 Chevy Equinox. I had a really nice pallet in the back with some blankets and pillows. And then I'd go shower at Crunch Fitness every morning before I headed into the ballpark for 12, 13 hours, right? Just needed somewhere to put my head down. So you're just constantly iterating off of the original plan. So then in year 2, it's reaching out to the gentleman that I worked for out in Laramie, Wyoming, a mentor of mine, Aaron Nielsen, a CEO who started his own business in Harmony, who gets it, right? I got to use his RV for free. All I had to do is pay for the gas. Drove out to Omaha. At the time, I don't know if it's changed, I was the first ever NCAA credentialed media member to show up to the gates in an RV. And they're like, hey, you can't fit in the parking lot. And I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And they're like, well, figure something out. So I actually stayed at the Creighton basketball arena, like the coach's parking lot. So it was just constantly getting creative, staying stringent to a budget, especially out the gates when everything is really difficult. And then just looking for help, right? Like I've been super fortunate to work and collaborate with some great folks over at the 11.7 College Baseball Podcast. Like they helped me, I guess still, by the way, like I've still so much to learn, like helped introduce me to a college baseball audience that like craved this stuff and loved it. And then in year 3, it kind of led to me working with D1 Baseball, who I'm with now, learning from incredible former scouts and writers and bloggers and, broadcasters and coaches that all kind of culminate in one area and put really good work together. So it's been quite an honor to be with them. To answer your question, it keeps changing. So year 4, that RV might get some more work on the highways. I'm not quite sure yet, but it's starting to feel like it.
Well, as you mentioned, year 4, and potentially 5, 6, 7, and on down the road. What are some things that you have in mind? This idea that you had, and obviously we've seen it evolve. Where are you at with it now, and what do you see in the future?
Yeah. Well, it's become so natural, the 6-7 deal. No, I think the dream is college game day for college baseball. I don't think that it's ever going to be college football or basketball, but just like, I don't know if you're a WWE fan, but if you help tell the story in a way that creates heroes and villains and gives player profiles and spotlights, just like you're doing with these interviews, a chance to get to know the dude that you're watching on the weekends, might incentivize a non-college baseball fan or a non-baseball fan in general, give them a reason to watch. And then once we really in, you're not going to want to leave because it's mayhem. There's more passion in every inning and in every pitch, I think, in my opinion, than anywhere else in any sport. Like it's nutty. Like it's 40 dudes getting on a bus eating peanut butter and jellies, even at the very top levels, just for a chance to go play the game they love with no idea of where it's going to take them. So to answer your question, kind of a long-winded, college game day for college baseball is the dream, something that I've been trying to manifest for a while now, and think we're getting close. So I think, to answer simply, that would be it.
It'd certainly be my pick to be the Pat McAfee, the face of college baseball. But the game would be in a good place if it evolves to that, and you would be the guy that could probably pull that off and do it successfully, probably sooner than later too. So we'll be following. It wouldn't shock me if you're able to do that, and hopefully some little help along the way from folks that see the mission that you have and the talents that you've brought to the table. Now, part of this, journalism thing is not new to you. Growing up the son of Dean Stevens, who is, if you're from the Charleston area, you know that name. He's been on your TV for many, many years. Back when I played down there, he was the sports guy, and then before long, he's running the show from behind the desk all by himself, doing all the news. So you grew up in that journalistic kind of style, and probably have gotten some good tips from your dad. I've never gone anywhere with your dad where everybody doesn't know. Everybody in the room knows who your dad is. What was it like growing up, son of Dean Stevens?
Yeah, he was my hero. Right? Like straight up, like I loved the way that he was able to construct a story. I loved the way that he was able to make those around him feel. And you're right. Like whether it was walking into a grocery store or going to a ballpark, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. From a media side, I think I'll probably give you an answer that might surprise you. Man, he told me from an early jump, like, "Hey, don't get into this business. Like, come on, like you're better than this. Don't worry about coming and trying to do this." And I think it was more so from a perspective, right? That's changed so much, right? Like sports media has changed so drastically from when he started 31 years ago, to date. And I think because again, he's so good at what he does, he could kind of see the trajectory of this space and how it's kind of evolved into the things that I'm doing now. But it's something that I pride myself in. Like I'm not necessarily I don't really necessarily it's just what I guess is square peg in a circle hole, right? Like I don't really fit the social media bill. I didn't have social media until I finished up college. Like I started with this, right? I wasn't necessarily a consumer before I was a user. And so I think that there's a little bit of an old school traditional media route and like telling long-term stories that don't necessarily play super well on social, but they appeal to an audience because, I learned from one of the best storytellers I know. I think it's a really cool blend in a really unique place. And that's obviously a lot of credit to him.
Well, while we're on the topic of your dad, he is a tremendous storyteller. Just it's crazy when I listen to you talk. Your voice even sounds a lot like your dad. But man, what a wonderful man that guy is, and what a role model you had every day. And my wife was going through her cancer battle. Her treatments were in Mount Pleasant, not far from where you grew up, and he didn't miss a single treatment. He would come in with a gift and sit with her, and of course, all the nurses couldn't. Like, how do you know Dean Stevens? And And it was through the relationship that he and I developed over you coming to our events, and that's how I got to know your dad on a more of a personal level than just seeing him on television. And so let's kind of talk about that from your dad and how we got to know each other a little bit. Let's go back to your high school days growing up. Obviously, you fell in love with the game somewhere along the way. So kind of give us an idea of where your love of the game came from, even before you got to Wando High School, and then some of the experiences you had at the high school level, and even coming to DP events and how that kind of evolved.
Yeah. Before we go, I'd be remiss to mention too, like, I think that's where our family's love of your family and like learning that there is so much more than baseball, because that's the key in all of this. My mom is the superstar. She's the real storyteller. She's the one that's orchestrating everything down at MUSC. So shout out mom. moms. That's a big shout out of the day. We got to shout out moms always, right? But and she probably helped be a catalyst in like their love for the game down in Charleston too. So, whether it was going and covering games at the Riverdog Stadium down at Joe Riley Park with my dad, and watching those awesome gritty Freddie Jordan teams down at the Citadel, and Monty Lee down at the College of Charleston a few years later. I was just always around it. Right. And you're like, man, like dyed up a huge professional Houston Astros fan, which I'm sure just pissed everybody off that's listening at home. But, whatever. I never really necessarily dreamed of playing for those guys. Like I dreamed of playing at Patriots Point down in Mount Pleasant. I dreamed of playing down on the peninsula for the Citadel Bowl. Like those were the things just because I was living them every day at 5, 6, 7 years old, which was such a cool, badass way to grow up. So that's probably where it started. And then just like everybody, like an aggressive amount of games of wiffle ball in the backyard with your buddies. And then those buddies you play travel ball with, and that turns into high school baseball with. And, down at Wando I don't know if you alluded to it, but what was so cool about that state championship team that we won with in 15 was, this senior year, this recap. But like I've known those guys since I was 8, 9 years old, or 6, 7 years old. Excuse me. They've got to be farther better on the brand. My bad. But yeah, I think that's where it all starts, is because it was such a family, right? We were such a cohesive unit. Yeah, it was far more than just baseball, right? Like these were the guys that we were like, hanging out with in the cul-de-sac every day. So that's what it felt like, and still feels like for me.
Well, you guys had all that success at Wando, and then you were able to parlay that into a college baseball career. So tell us a little bit about, from the Wando days to how that became Jack Delongchamps, the college baseball player.
Yeah. Ultimate competitor, below average stick, brutal arm. But let me tell you what, Coach, the red shirt was perfectly personified for me. I was like 160 pounds soaking wet when I arrived on campus at Charleston Southern. So, man, you learn a lot about yourself, right? You go from like being the big fish in a small pond, and then you show up in college baseball and you get kicked in the teeth a little bit. It was a great wake-up call for me. So, spent an awesome 4 years at Charleston Southern, met some of the best friends in my life there. And, I think for 3 years I joked about being the self-proclaimed bullpen catcher of the year. That's what it looked like. I mean, that freshman year, I didn't get cleats. I didn't get a jersey. I was just catching pen after pen after pen and learning a ton in the process. And then, hey, it's going to be my turn. Well, it wasn't. And then it wasn't again. So it's learning and to be patient, right? And it's buying your time. And are you willing to put that work in behind the scenes just for that one opportunity, right? Like I do think that is very fitting that I am your 67th guest. I know I said it in the open, but like it's been so much fun to listen to the 66 others that have had, these super awesome careers, whether it be from a professional or college standpoint. Like that wasn't necessarily my story, but I think what's cool about it is I had just as much fun as everybody else, because this game has provided me everything. So when I wrap up and I have a pretty good senior year, finally get the opportunity to play a good bit, and then the next door opens up, and that's all thanks to college baseball. And that's kind of how I got up to George Mason, which is a pretty wild story in itself.
Well, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a podcast, right? I probably should, instead of just teasing it like it's a movie coming out next week that people care about. So I graduated from Charleston Southern. That summer I go, hey, got this undergrad, super proud of it. But I think I want that master's degree. I want to keep playing. I sent out 107 emails that summer. But I was the dude at prom that couldn't get a date. Nobody wanted to dance with me. It was getting ugly, and it was getting late. And I go, I guess this is it. I worked on jet skis and parasail boats throughout college to pay for school. So that summer I'm working on a boat. I think it's August 23rd. School's already started. So I go, I guess the career's over. Like kind of a weird way to finish, but I guess it's over. I meet a guy. I take him and his family out on a jet ski caravan around the Charleston Barrier Islands. And he's asking me about me. I'm kind of deflecting to him. I end up learning that he works in the Secret Service in the DC area. And by the end of the trip, I kind of mentioned, just trying to find somewhere to play baseball. I've got a couple of years of eligibility left, but just wasn't meant to be. Couldn't find anywhere to go. He's like, my best friend is a coach at George Mason. I go, that's great. That's awesome. He's like, well, let me make a call. And you're like, I've had mentors and coaches and parents, and I've sent all these emails, but yeah, sure, stranger. I'm sure you're going to look out for me. You met me an hour ago, but awesome. Great.
Yeah.
12 hours later, I'm finishing up work on the water. I'm sitting on a dock flushing a boat engine, and I get a call from the pitching coach at George Mason saying, hey, I don't know if you believe in fate, but we just had a kid fail a summer class. would you like to come up and take a spot? I go, is this like a prank phone call? Like, did I get star 67? Which now that's an old school 6-7 reference that I'm not sure that the young kids will understand. But I go, I mean, yeah, of course. And he was like, well, I'm going to send over more information tomorrow. How much do you know about George Mason? I go, I know they played in the Final Four in the early 2000s, and that's about it. And he goes, I'll have our head coach call tomorrow. We need an outfielder. I think we can make this happen, but school started 2 days ago. So we're going to need an answer fast. And you go, oh, okay. Next morning at noon, after some praying and talking with my mom and dad, I found someone to cover my lease at my apartment in North Charleston. And I grabbed a U-Haul and I made my way to D.C. 48 hours later. So it was wild. It was fast, but it was one of the best things that's happened in my life.
Well, right now you're kind of in a little bit of a downtime, I guess. We all are.
Yep.
Not a lot of baseball being played that I'm aware of, but it's right around the corner. Tell us, when you do have a little downtime, when there's not 100 baseball games to get to every night, what do you have going on? What are some hobbies of yours? You mentioned the water, but what are some other things that you enjoy doing when you're not at the ballpark?
I love losing a million golf balls, completely addicted to golf like I'm sure every other washed up baseball player. But right now, I think it's fairly fitting with the crazy Lane Kiffin saga. I like watch and study a ton, right? Like I'm obsessed with a guy in Marty and McGee. Marty Smith, I think, is super, super talented. And he covered the whole Lane Kiffin stuff really well. Watching how he used NASCAR to kind of trampoline and to get to tell stories in all these different sports. And now he's got his own radio talk show. For me, that's what this fall has been, learning to explore and learning to kind of dip my toe into other sports and into other pools. So I've been really blessed to pretty much every weekend this fall to go cover a college football game. Just got back from the Iron Bowl. That was pretty gnarly. Like those two teams really don't like each other. So to kind of be a bystander and help put some fun projects together was pretty awesome. So yeah, the hobbies are just like kind of chasing this thing in a different light. And it's like learning a little bit more about yourself and learning how to play the game a little bit. So that's what life looks like right now.
Before we went on, one of the things you said you wanted to talk about a little bit was your experiences with Diamond Prospects, just when you were trying to catch the eye of college coaches, like any kid that comes to our events. And once we were all aspiring ball players, just trying to find our next little niche, next little place to play baseball. That was one of the things you wanted to talk about a little bit. So throw the floor back at you. I say DP, you say what?
Man, I say changed my life. I think it's fitting to come off of that story of how I got to George Mason on a stranger by a boat, right? I think life sometimes happens in really precarious ways. Not with your event. Your event is very intentional, and the camps and the showcase games. For me, I think I first went to your event. I was 16 years old. It was at Lexington High School. I'm at Wando High School where some of my best friends are getting recruited to play at the utmost levels. And you're just going, well, hey, I'm a little undersized, haven't had like quite the numbers as these dudes around me, but I'm putting in the work. It's going to come, right? Well, sometimes you got to be intentional about that work, and you got to work a little bit smarter, not harder. And that's what your event was for me, was this ability to go, hey, I'm going to bet on myself. And there's no better place to bet on yourself than at a Diamond Prospects event. After that event at Lexington High School, it led to my first visit to Charleston Southern. That ended up being my lone D1 offer. To say that changed my life is an understatement. Who knows if any of this happens without just one moment, right? And are you ready to take care of that moment? I don't know if you guys have like Eminem One Shot playing in the background like the entire event, but that's what it served to me. And I knew the magnitude of it, the ability to show up and have a ton of different eyeballs on you in one place. And it just takes one to believe in you. And that's what it was, right? And I don't know if you know this, I was down at my parents' place, but it is one of my more prized possessions is I won the Charlie Hustle Award at the showcase games going into my senior year at Founders Park with you guys. And that was, to me, so fulfilling because I was like, this is who I want to be, right? Like, these are the guys that I watched. I know that I'm not as talented. I can't hit it as far, throw it as hard, but I can control this thing. So to have that recognition, to me, was a cherry on top of kind of already the opportunity you guys had granted myself, being able to come in and play in front of so many different coaches. So I still have it to this day. Don't think that those plaques just get thrown into a shelf. It's sitting up like, shout out to moms again, but like it's still like hanging up on a wall. So yeah, when you ask me what DP means to me, it means opportunity.
Well, I appreciate it, man. You obviously have capitalized on every opportunity you've gotten. and a lot more, I'm sure, are in your future for certain. Yeah, listen, I want to get to know you a little bit better, or let others get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
You travel all over the place right now. You're about to travel a ton more, I'm sure, when the calendar flips. You get to go all these college campuses. What are some of the campuses that you've enjoyed visiting, maybe that you hadn't been to before? You mentioned the Iron Bowl. Some of the experiences you've enjoyed the most, best places to eat for when people are on these trips, maybe in the same areas that you're in. What are some other things that what are your favorite movies, genre? What do you watch on television? Give us a little bit more of an idea of who you are away from baseball.
That. All right. Well, I've got a massive man crush on Matthew McConaughey. I think we should probably start there. My dad is a University of Texas graduate, so getting to cover Texas and Texas A&M this year in Austin for college baseball was pretty gnarly. So my favorite place to eat out there, you think of like Louis Black's out there, like Killer Barbecue, but my dad had like some really fun in the whole, Tex-Mex spots. So Torchy's Tacos, I think it's a chain now, like the best breakfast taco ever. Big fan. So feed me some breakfast tacos, feed me anything that's in burnt orange. What am I watching on TV? Watching a lot of Office these days. Like I need something comforting that I've seen like a zillion times. Love live music. I'm about as musically inclined as a doorknob. It didn't work out for me that way, but I love going and seeing live music at concerts. One of my favorite memories of all time, I got to go see a group called Whiskey Myers out at Red Rocks. That was probably like an elite moment with some really good friends of mine. But yeah, we're traveling a ton. So I'm trying to think. I think when you talk about like the fiber of who I am, and as a guy that played 6 years of Division I mid-major baseball, I love telling those stories. Last year, I got to do some really cool stuff and go to some bucket list spots. Like I got to go see LSU at the Box. I got to go to see Arkansas at Vietnam. I got to go see, we went and saw Georgia at Foley and Feed the Trees. And man, what Clemson's got going up in the Cajun Cafe was ridiculously awesome. It's not lost on me that I still love going and doing the mid-major stuff a little bit more. Like you're just so tickled getting to see Coastal Carolina play for a national championship because you're like, that kind of like, hey, I knew it. Like I saw those guys like in February. I saw those guys back in November working their tails off. So if you're asking who I am, probably too loyal by fault. Loyal to a Dixon Ticonderoga #2 pencil. If you disagree otherwise, you're just wrong. It's the best pencil on the market. So if we can't get Ticonderoga to give Diamond Prospects a call as maybe a future sponsor, and Pencil Talk for that matter, that would be huge. So there's your shout out clippable moment. But yeah, I think that puts a bow on it. What else? What else you got for me?
Jack, when we were talking off air before we started recording, we were talking about the pronunciation of your last name. Talk to us a little bit about that. You had a funny story. Share it with everybody else.
Yeah, I think, when you're getting sparing pinch hits all the time, like plie announcers don't necessarily have to prepare for your last name, I think is the problem. But yes, it's a long one. A lot of letters, a lot of syllables. An Italian grandmother that's very precise about it. So technically, it's Delongchamps. Now, pronounced Delongchamps, so I'd be an idiot to forfeit over maybe the world's greatest fantasy football name and Delongchampions over. So no, I'm not going to be the hey, that's not how you say my name, because when you mispronounce it, it sounds way cooler. So like I'm in a weird spot, don't you think?
What'd your dad do?
Right, and Pops just goes, I'm going to avoid all this craziness. I'm going to get a job in Charleston, South Carolina in the 90s where they can't pronounce anything, and I'm just going to go by my middle name. Dean Stevens, we're just going to avoid the alliteration without the Dean DeLongchamps, allowing his kids to fight and fend for themselves out here in the streets. But I don't know if that was calculated or what, but I know that I got a lot of people asking, hey, is that your dad's stage name? And I go, well, he's not that theatrical, but yes, I get where you're coming from. So yeah, he avoids all this mayhem by just going middle name. Way easier.
It seems to work for everybody. We've talked a little bit about some of the people from your past. I basically want to kind of toss it to you and kind of go through some shout outs to some people throughout your history and your journey that have helped you get where you are. Just basically, again, hand the floor back to you and talk a little bit about some of the people along your path.
Well, I mean, I know that we've been doing this for a while, and I can't say thank you enough. So I'm going to shout you out, man. I'm telling you what you and your group have done have impacted and changed thousands of kids' lives. So I put you guys right there at the top of the list. My family has been so supportive. You got to have people crazy like you in your corner to chase these dreams, and got a long way to go. So I want to thank them. But Just all the coaches along the way. I think those that are doing it for the right reasons, a guy like Tim Gansrow, Aaron Nielsen, George Schaefer at Charleston Southern, at George Mason, that entire staff, Sean Camp, Billy Brown, Tyler Neal, and those guys that took a shot on a beach bum on a jet ski and said, hey, look, hopefully it'll be a good fit, right? They just took a flyer. And I think sometimes in life, when you find folks that are willing to just say, hey, good people, trusting in good people, that's really cool. I think that's where the magic of life takes over. Man, I want to shout out all of you that have played such an integral role in allowing me to have the confidence to maybe rip some of the crazy choices that I've made along this way. And, looking forward to doing a whole lot more down the road.
Before we conclude episode 67, well, we've talked about pencil. That's right. We've talked about pencil talk at the very beginning, gave us kind of the etymology of where this crazy idea started. And of course, we've got an idea where it has gone. But where can people find you? If people want to find out more about you, find out a little bit more about what you do and your work, where can people track you down at?
Yeah, great. Yeah, I appreciate you allowing the opportunity to plug it. Yeah, anything, all streaming podcast platforms, Mental Talk Pod, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and then on social media as well, Instagram and Twitter. You can find me at Pencil Talk, and then my name as well, at Jack Delongchamps, or Champs, whatever the hell you want to call me. I don't care. As long as you click that follow button, I don't mind. You can call me idiot for all I care. So, yeah, I appreciate you.
That's good stuff, man. Well, I really enjoyed you. I knew this would be fun. I certainly had to commemorate episode 67 in some fashion, and you were the perfect guest to fit that bill. Man, I appreciate you taking us down the road, and we certainly look forward to. I mean, you're just getting started. A lot more for you to obviously accomplish, and we look forward to having a front row seat for the ride that you take us on. So, Jack, I really appreciate you coming on. Please give my best to your family, and anything else you got to conclude episode 67 for us?
Yeah, 6, 7 high school kids, I'm sure we've been super cringy, but this pencil wants to get back to the Palmetto State. If you have a story that you want to tell and a journey that you're ready to embark on, there is nobody better in the business than Diamond Prospects and my guy, Austin Alexander, and his staff. We look forward to seeing you here soon. Hopefully put something in the plans, maybe get to a pro day or a camp and come show some love. We're just getting started, man. Those South Carolina roots mean a lot to me, and it means a lot to me being on it.
Well, you heard it right there from the man at Pencil Talk. For Jack, I'm Austin Alexander signing off on episode 67. We'll see you next time.